Welcome back to the Troubleshooting Life podcast. I'm your host, Jay Peters, my co-host, Craig Poston, where we talk about various topics, sharing our experiences on life and finances. So this guy is talking about like business plans and stuff, and like people were wondering why a lot of people don't follow through on their business plans they finished up on, like say the year before.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because like it's very logical. Like it's like I'm going to do this and then do this and then do this and they found that logical stories are very boring. Right, like how many people actually watch documentaries versus like watching the movie adaptation or show adaptation of the like just think of like when you're talking about like Jeffrey Dahmer, right? How many people watched the Dahmer, like I think it was Netflix series over the Dahmer documentaries that have been out for like decades.
Yeah, and I guess that's everything, right? We all want to be entertained, and education for some reason has made it where it's not entertainment. It bores us, even though in a sense it's still entertaining us. It's not in the same way.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's very logical, as in like it's A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, right? It's not like there's no like melody to it. It's not like we're singing A, B, C. It's not like we're Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Like he made that stuff like looking good, right? Yeah. But it was because like there was some sort of entertainment attached to it, right? That's why like in when you're kids and stuff, or like elementary school, like they'll sing certain things, right?
Yeah.
Like, to remember things because it's more entertaining, it's more helpful. But you know, as they get older and stuff, it becomes a little bit less entertaining. It becomes a little bit less like cheerful. It's very binary, very, very in the brain that this will be learned.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on that one, we were talking about entertainment as a child. I mean, I guess that's something we try not to lose, because I know I want to start working on that, where I'm entertained like a kid, like you have or have and not say entertained, but like more have that enthusiasm like a kid. So I can like want to learn more or do more, not want to sit in the house, and now I want to go. Let me go walk this trail, or let me go to the park, or let me go, try this new gym out. Just like do stuff like everything's brand new to you. You like so that would be actually pretty cool. I think that's probably what my mind is geared toward on real estate. I've kind of gotten a little into it, excited about it. Even though real estate investor is not my primary goal, it's actually another goal behind that. But real estate actually helps me get there, because I would like to own more, like come to owning businesses and things like that.
Yeah.
And with having assets, this is what I think. Yeah, because I haven't just researched it enough or either applied for enough things. But like when you have assets, the bank seems like they want to talk to you.
Yeah.
You have something to lose. You got good credit. You got something to lose if you have, if you mess it up. You got the income. You don't want to just lose your income. You got money that you put down, so you have skin in the game. And I mean, all these things feel like they're a reason why a bank would want to give you money to go fund a project that you want to work on. So
well, it's just you have more leverage.
Like
credit score is leverage, assets are leverage, your time is leverage, right? Income is leverage. It's just that you just have more of that than another person, right? Or like just like the common consumer that's just trying to get another house for like personal purposes. But like the child thing, a lot of people will talk about what kind of keeps them invigorated is having that childlike curiosity. Right. Like not assuming anything. Right. Like, so like, for example, like when you said like finding different workouts, right? Like don't assume that it's going to be bad just because it's cardio. Right. Don't assume that it's just going to drain you just because you haven't done it in a while. Like just have the curiosity to do it and execute on it. Like don't worry about all the things that you just don't know. Just focus on what you want to do. And it takes like a lot of that anxiety out of you, because you're not focusing on necessarily the negatives, or things that could be detrimental to you. I'm not saying just jump off a cliff because you want to, right? Like don't have that type of curiosity. Have like a logical or educated curiosity to where, running a mile, it might be exhausting because I haven't done it, but why not do it? Right. Don't say, well, I want to run a mile, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to probably like pull a hamstring or whatever it is, right? Just go out and do it. And I know that's like easy for some people to say and easy for others to say, or not easy for people to say, but I mean, there's we talked about it before, like the analysis by paralysis type of thing. Where you overanalyze something, you think about it too much to where you end up focusing on not doing it. and you kind of give yourself those reasons or excuses at the end on why you didn't do it, right? Why you're not going to the gym, why you're not eating a certain way, why you're not making a certain amount of money, right? It's just more excuses or reasons not to do something.
Yeah. On that curiosity, yeah, I want to actually swim in like an ice cold lake. So open water is something I want to start doing. Open water swimming. That is something I want to do, and I'm very curious because I know it requires more training. I've already tried the other thing where I go for a run, and then after the run I go for a swim, because actually in the end of it, it felt good on my muscles. Especially after a run, and then in a sense you're working out. I mean, actually working out harder than a run, because you're working out a lot, but it feels different because you're in this cold pool, right? Because we have one in our neighborhood, and that's what I've done. I actually went for a run, and then after dropping my son off and everything, changing clothes, all that, then I go for a swim. Yeah, so
that's really good. I like swimming because and we kind of talked about it before, but it works more than just, or it's more than just cardio, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty full workout. And especially if you don't know how to swim properly, it can become like a even more workout because you're kicking your legs improperly.
Yeah.
You're doing your whatever stroke you're doing that improperly. So it's moving. You're still moving those muscles, and you're trying to focus on the distance.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of pulling yourself instead of properly gliding through the water. So I found that I get more sore if I'm doing something improperly versus doing something properly.
Yeah. I found out that different volumes of water actually helps out with that gliding. Because here in my neighborhood, the pool, I think the deepest is 4 feet. But they set it up like a lap pool though.
Yeah.
I went to the YMCA, and the deepest they have is 7 feet, I think, that. Yeah, and then but the minimum was 4 feet, so it went from 4 feet all the way to 7 feet, all the way across, right? And I was noticing how when I was swimming there, it was a lot easier to glide. When I took my breaths, I had that pocket that they always talk about. You get this pocket so you can breathe. It had all that. I was like, there's definitely a difference in the different types of volume of water, and it keeps me interested. And I was like, man, I want to try, because I want to get to the point where I can dive. I want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to dive, and when I'm saying dive, not dive off a board, but dive as in go deep water dive.
Yeah.
And then learn how to build up that lung capacity for that. So I think all those things are pretty cool. So, and then next time we go to some type of beach or whatever, I can go deeper out and then go down and go see the reefs or whatever, right? Whatever is there in the area. So that, I guess that's more trying to keep that kid-like mentality. I'm going to explore. I want to go try something new. And
so you're trying to glide in the kiddie pool next, or?
Yeah. You know what? That's a great idea.
With 2 inches of water.
But no, I think me taking more of an interest in swimming, my kids also took more interest in swimming, which they are already interested, but they were watching my technique that I was doing, which I'm not a great swimmer, but I was making it happen. But then I look at them and they're out swimming me, because they picked it up quicker.
I think that's a good motivator too, especially as a parent, right? You're say in sports, or in swimming, right? You would try to pick up on some stuff, and then they do it, and then they're doing better, and you're like, well, I can't have these kids beat me. They're gonna think they can punk me after this.
Yeah,
this happened.
They'll challenge you. My son, he's quick to challenge me. Why you won't go over to dad? You go over to dad. They're yo, kid, get out of my face.
It's where are you here?
Yeah, because I knew what he was doing. Is if I went to the deep end, then he was gonna follow me. So that's why he was trying to get me to go over there, because I was staying with him, and I let my daughter go, and they basically did a water test on her, see how good she was, and they're like, okay, she's good to go. And then then he wanted to go over there, but I was like, nah, you're not going over there, kid, because I know what's gonna happen. Because if he gets tired, he's gonna look for me to come get him. Yeah. So I was like, man, I don't know how to do rescue yet, so no. But I'm like,
because you're gonna be underwater trying to pick him up.
Yeah, I know, right?
But I think Jim Rohn, he has a pretty good story about that, where and kind of like why kids kind of enjoy like showing off to their, not necessarily showing off, but like talking to their parents about like what they showed them and stuff like that, is because people love giving credit to their benefactor. Yeah, like it gives them like a sense of joy to say, hey, you taught me this and I'm doing so great at it now. Like, look at me, like I'm doing great at swimming, I'm doing great at sports, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think that's great. They like teach them different things, whether it's like a different
Yeah.
sport, different type of like workout. I think that's awesome from a physical standpoint, teaching them different things about life, right?
Yeah.
Like, certain things aren't easy, certain things could be education, whatever it is. I think those are really cool because it gives them something tangible to kind of work on and show you at the same time.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they are curious like that, because right now they're doing basketball. Both of them are doing it. My son was doing football. He found out that he doesn't like football as much as he has to exert a lot of energy, but he's not doing a lot of running. And I think the other thing is that the spotlight is not on him. And when it comes to football, you don't get the spotlight unless you're running the ball or you're intercepting, or you're doing something, or you're the receiver, or the quarterback. I think he realized that, and he got tired of being like, he was like a blocker. He would run the ball, but like it was hard for people to block for him. So then now he gets tackled because his startup was slower once he grabbed the ball than the takeoff. Yeah. And I was teaching him how to move quicker. So I was like, all right, yeah. So for him though, since it was the startup, I told him, I was like, hey, what you can do is get more of a run going, because it takes you too long to he's not a quick from stop to start. He's not quick with it, and to do something where he has the momentum to take off, because he's actually pretty quick. It's just not from stop, from a standstill point. And then you have other kids who are quick like that, So
you guys show stuff on like Tyreek Hill or Barry Sanders.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. If we start to watch some videos, the interest is there, but then it goes away. He wants to watch other things on YouTube. So which they are entertaining and it's cool, but it's not the stuff that's improving him on the things he like to do. Which he's still young. But I'm trying to plant that seed of that curiosity to hey, this is something you're interested in, learn more. Same for my daughter. I said before, my daughter act like she's naturally, she has it naturally. She just has that confidence, but she doesn't have it naturally. So she doesn't have all the skills to make sure she's a great basketball player or a very good at gymnastics, because that's something she does. Because we took her classes down to more of a tumble than team, because she was on team. And I think last season, one of the podcasts where I was in Fort Worth with them. Yeah. Because she was on team, and they were winning, but we thought she could do better though. And then also it gets costly. So then we were letting her know, it's hey, you want to do multiple things or you don't do one thing? Vic, So then you really find out what their true desire is. And
I think with stuff like football, for your son and stuff, probably getting into something like track and stuff, because I knew a lot of people like in middle school and high school, they would offset that with their off season. Yeah, they'd go football and then track.
They learn how to run.
It helps them learn how to run, and especially if they do the short distances, helps them with acceleration and stuff like that, or even the hurdles and stuff. It helps them with their jumps.
Yeah. That's for, I guess what we were talking about earlier though, the whole house thing, trying to decide about buying a primary residence in the process of buying investment property. Where should the focus be? But then when it comes to family, the kids, all that, you want them in a good school system. But then you can't you add a good comment to this, was it Joe Rohn or
Jim Rohn?
Jim Rohn, sorry. And it was about the softness in a kid brings that adversity.
So a lot of people said it, but the one that I spoke about was what Joe Rogan said.
Oh, Rogan.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, so Rogan was saying that hard times create hard people create soft times create soft people create hard times. As in, if I went through hard times and I wanted it to be better for my future generations and future family, then it would more than likely be a little bit softer for them, right? Say if I
Yeah.
grew up in a middle class family or an impoverished family, and I wanted it to, and I somehow became in like a higher middle class or higher class,
Yeah.
um, that would be a different environment than what I grew up in.
Yeah.
Right? I have kids; they grew up in a little bit softer lifestyle, and then when they grow up, they'll probably get accustomed to the lifestyle, but they may not work as hard for it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then that creates that creates soft people, I should say. The soft people will create hard times because they won't work as hard. They won't do what's needed. They'll kind of take certain things or take advantage of certain things. And that creates hard times because now that there's people that aren't working for it, they probably can't keep up with a certain level of income, certain level of wealth, certain level of values. They then create hard times, and then it starts to cycle again. And talking to is that like one of the like leading statistics is for people that are of wealth is that it won't go past 3 generations, right, of their own family. As in like starting with me and then my kid and then my grandkids. After that, there probably won't be not necessarily just wealth, but certain knowledge is probably missing. Certain teachings are gone. Values are probably gone because it's so diluted away from you, the person that started the wealth. And it's because of that, like that you created those or you created those soft times so that it's less incentivizing, less adversity for the next generation, which is good and bad, right? Like you want to work hard so that you make your kids' lives a little bit better, right? But to what detriment, right?
Yeah.
Does it now make them take advantage of certain things, right? As in like you had to work, like you didn't get certain things, right? Like let's say like toys or something simple, right? Certain toys, certain levels of education, right? Like it's not like you were getting tutoring all the time. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not bad to have those things, but is the value of that as in, will this create a better person and will it create a better generation? Who knows?
Yeah.
Right. And then that's why like people see it on the news, like a lot of people of previous generations, they'll complain about the new generation, right? It happens all the time. Like it doesn't matter which generation, right? But it's millennials, Gen Zs, boomers, whatever it is, right? It's always going to happen because in the end, we created a newer generation that's a little bit softer because we fought the wars, we did all the things that we needed to do to make it easier, to make it more protected here, at least in our community of like America and stuff.
Yeah, I can see that because I mean I noticed it. Say my nephew, you can tell things for him were a little different than for me and my sister. Even though my sister, it was different for her than for me. So like and it's like you can tell the difference in the different generations where it was how it changed.
Yeah.
Right. So when I lived with my mom, it wasn't always the greatest living with my mom, and I love my mom and everything. But I think I learned my first piece of responsibility from her. Right. She basically made me stay home at 8 years old to watch my sister. So I was the babysitter because she couldn't afford a babysitter.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you have a different mentality. Like you learn how to, protect people or take care of people. If you see somebody that's in harm, you want to make sure you can help them. And also you learn something else in the process as you get older. Then you can't help people until your footing is firm, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something else you learn. But from having that part where my mom couldn't afford to have a babysitter, basically tell us don't answer the door for anybody except me. Let you know. Let you know what food was at home or whatever. Or sometimes she would forget to tell us what to cook or make or whatever, right? And I remember that's when I used to eat syrup sandwiches, which is not the best diet for a kid, but like you do something just to eat to get hey, you don't have anybody to watch you, so right, you're like I'm gonna eat this, but I made sure my sister was safe. I'm not sure how long the shift was because I was a kid. I didn't have that same time of concept, right?
Yeah.
Now, as I do now as an adult. So I didn't measure time alone that I was there, but I was alone. And I made sure she was okay.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's part of that growing up and trying to figure out how to give some of that responsibility, which is a little bit of adversity for a child. That's a little bit of adversity. So you try to figure a way to give that same responsibility to them so they can understand how to be responsible for themselves. I'm already trying to do the trust thing, letting them, spend the night at their friend's house. That's something that, as a parent, it's hard to let go of that type of stuff because then it's hard to trust people these days. But it's something that, okay, you got to let go. Your life is very different from their life. And I wasn't raised in a neighborhood where I can trust the family and the same as like, hey, yeah, it's okay. Your kids can come over here and my kids can go over there. It's like, that's all new to me. Yeah. And that's the thing. I have to look internally and realize that things are different for your kids. They're not the same for you. And then you just have to keep accepting that it's different and provide the responsibility for them to understand that, hey, you need to make sure this, you need to do that. Like I make my daughter more responsible. Carry your phone, so you can reach out to people if something that, if you get in trouble or something happens or, it's just different because I wouldn't have had a phone at 10 years old, but it's like, it's so different now that, I had to look at it from this angle. Back when I was a kid, everyone had we call it a house phone, right? You basically had a landline, right? Not many people have that now. No. And then I had to look like, okay, well, if that's the way it is, then maybe she should have a cell phone so she can communicate with her friends and communicate with us to let us know what's going on.
That was gonna be my question. Is like, same thing. I didn't have a phone until I was like 15 or 16 or something like that. And like we had landlines though. Like we had landlines when I was a kid. That's how you would call people. My question would have been like, what was the shift for you to allow your kid to have a phone at such a young age, right? Where like it's not like phones weren't like incredibly common, right? Especially like smartphone ones as they are now in this market. But like, what was that kind of shift for you?
It was really that I had to think back when I was a kid. Did you used to talk to your friends? And I was a yes. I definitely did. I talked to my friends on the phone. I just didn't talk as much because it wasn't my phone line, right? Yeah. It was my parents' phone line. So like I would, if you wanted to call a friend real quick, you can talk to them. Hey, how you doing? With hey, what we doing tomorrow? Stuff like that. But a lot of times also if you lived all in the same neighborhood, you basically just go knock on their door. Yeah. And that's something we don't do as much. And I mean, even though we could in our neighborhood, we could let them roam free a little bit, but it's that let it go thing. So that mental shift was basically sitting down and thinking about it. She didn't get the phone right away. So it was literally, I had to go through this thought pattern. And then actually my wife still didn't agree with me, but I let her know the reasoning behind it, and then she was kind of like, okay, but I don't agree with it. So it does bring on more, I'm gonna say issues, but it requires you as a parent to be more responsible, to understand that now they have a device that they can have access to the internet without messing with your internet, So like they can look up anything they want to look up. And that's one of those things is like, okay, all right, what do I need to do to protect them from seeing something they shouldn't see? But then it's like one of those things like you can't hide them from everything. So then it's more on the lines of just educate them. All right, you see something or something happens, this is probably the best route to take, to communicate with us. But because there's another thing. You don't want to shut them down, because that was one thing that I think you dealt with your parents from back in the day. You'll shut down on your parents because if they're too strict or they're a certain way, you're just like, well, I want to tell you, I'll tell you a lie before I tell you the truth, because if you can't handle the truth, then you're acting all, crazy and like, well, why did you do this and all this, instead of like, okay, what was their reasoning behind it? Why did they do this? And then actually make it a teaching moment versus like, more of a punishment. Yeah.
Well, because like, how do you create that openness though with your kids to allow them to speak with you on those things? Because like you said, like, I'm not saying that parenting was bad back in the day. It probably wasn't, but like I will say that there are certain levels of empathy that probably weren't there. Yeah. And like, I'm not trying to like overcorrect to where they can just continue to spill out all their drama and all their emotions out. But like, what's that like good balance, or how do you create that openness to allow your kids to speak with you on like certain topics that maybe might be uncomfortable, but I mean, they should still come to you about it rather than someone else?
Well, I haven't had the real uncomfortable topics yet, but I've definitely had the conversations where it's not the same as my parents. So, I don't know if you came from the same background where your parents would say, do as I say, not as I do type of stuff, or they didn't want you to question, like, okay, why did you want me to do that? Yeah, so they can understand. And it may be a true curiosity to understand. So that part I keep open. If I punish him for something, I go back and explain why I punished him. If I said no, I go back and say why I said no. You know, like, instead of like, it's a dead no. You know, I said no because I said so, you know?
Yeah.
And I try to make them all teachable moments. Because my son, he definitely will bring that out of me. He was like, "So why, Dad? So why?" He does that to me. So I was like, "All right, so why can't I do it?" I was like, "Okay, all right." So let me, and that's why I try not to get upset, because that he may actually be curious about why he can't do something, and then he may be a problem solver, right? He's like, "Well, if that's your fear," and he's not saying fear, but he's like, "If that's your problem, I can do this." He's became a problem solver versus like, well, I'm shut down, I can't do anything. He learns how to do a workaround, right? He basically learns how to come up with new ways that, hey, well, I can do this. Same as my daughter, same way. They try to come up with another way to see if it can be done. And instead of doing it behind your back, they do it in your face so you can like still correct them, right?
I was going to say, because like, that's what does, like, they still do that, or like the other generation will probably still do that. But like you said, they'll do it behind your back.
Yeah.
Instead of explaining it to you or telling you that they're going to do it. Because in the end, the kid's going to get whatever they want to get.
Yeah.
At some point, like, they're going to figure it out. But yeah, no, I think it's good, like, that they have that open dialogue with you on like what their intentions are, or what they plan to do instead.
And and again, I'm a parent, so I don't know what else. Like my daughter, she's a different age, and so she's not like as young as my son. So she's 10, so I don't know if she's hiding anything, but I try to keep that environment where you could come talk to me. If it's one of the fights was my wife didn't want her to watch a certain show. It said TV 14, and usually TV 14 to me is still okay. But then if my wife doesn't agree, then I can't just go against her and go like, oh yeah, you go, yeah. So like I have to explain to my daughter. I was like, well, this is why she doesn't want you to watch it, and this is what she feels, and then I redirect her to something else, right? So like we're talking about a different show. This is what happens, and then I told her, all right, so this is basically I ended up going into like, well, if you're so bent on trying to watch this show, why don't you find something else to do with your time? Like there's so many other things you can work on. You have piano that you play, and you go to classes, and you can focus on that. Yeah, I was like, you like architectural stuff, you can actually do more reading on the, like I kept going down the line of all these other things she can do with her time besides trying to fight over a show that she really wanted to watch. And then she came out with like, because I told her about what, a lot of times I don't get to watch as much TV because I'm actually focusing my time on something else. Like I got to improve my career. I want to learn about real estate. I want to learn about investing. I want to learn about all these different things. And I was like, again, I think the focus went back to, my job. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm doing these things to make sure I do better at my job. And then she came out with, what I do all day. Because I think we were talking about how, what she does and what I do. And then she was like, well, all I do is learn, and you go to work and make money. And I kind of made me really upset, because I was like, I don't go to work just to make money. Like I told her, honestly, I said it like this: money ain't shit, and knowledge is everything. Because without, you can be without money, but if you're without knowledge, you won't make money. So the more knowledge you carry, the more money you can make. And it's a true statement. And we're not talking about just educational school stuff. We're talking about like if someone taught you something new that could make you money, that just made you more money, right? If one example you can use is when they get, why am I drawing a blank? And I love,
So there's this
guy. I was like, on that.
There's one example where that I heard where this guy, he was talking about how one of his neighbors, they had a daughter, I think she was like 18 or 19, and she was working at a bowling alley, right? Making like, I think minimum wage or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was saying that her dad, I think he's a doctor or something, or he told her that, hey, you should go get like a certification in phlebotomy, right? I mean, that like you'll take blood and stuff, and it'll be like her wages after that point, I think in that market were about like $25 an hour, right? If she became a phlebotomist, right? It was like $500, right? To get the class and get the certification, whatever it is, right? It's funny because like a lot of people don't see that, right? They see the immediate cost of like the $500, but they don't see like the exponential amount of, at least in wages, due to that education they could make, right? So say if you make, like, say she didn't have $500, she could probably borrow the $500 from her family, right? Get the $500, and then within a week or so, or 2 weeks after, she gets paid, she could pay it back.
Yeah.
Right. So because she would make that much, like $25 an hour, right? At like 40 hours a week, or let's say even 20 if she was part-time, right? That'd be $500 right there, right? 20 hours. But there's a lot of people that just don't see the value because they don't see the immediate value.
Yeah.
Or all they see is that immediate cost, I should say, versus the longer lasting value.
Yep. And now I remember who it is. Grant Cardone. So when he kind of could teach you, like, just watching his videos, like how from nothing you can make money, right? He did a show on Discovery, and it was actually pretty doggone cool. I was like, in 90 days. Yeah. And then, like, if you watch some of his interviews, and he'll talk about it, and like just understanding that it was knowledge, they got him the money versus like him just having money to make money. Because he understood equity in a company, he understood how to make connections, he understood all those different things, and that's how he was able to build so quickly. Versus a person you're gonna take your income that you make, invest it, pile it up, invest it, right? And that's a slower process. But then a person who could take some money that they probably had saved, but they had all these connections, they had all the, they basically gained the knowledge of understanding that the relationships would really make you money, and then actually owning pieces of a company made you money, instead of building a business. Because building a business is a slow process, and also you have a chance of losing it in the process of building it. So, right? So, and a person who understands that if I got equity in a company, and I'm helping you build your company at the same time, then you're making money. You just increased your income.
Hey everyone, quick interruption. I just wanted to say from both Craig and I, thank you for taking the time to listen to us and our random rambling about life. If you have enjoyed this and think even one other person will enjoy this, then please share out this link, whether you found us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. It costs no money and little time, but would have a great positive impact for our podcast and brand. All right, enough with the shameless plug. Let's get back to the podcast.
But going back to it, like where we were talking about, raising kids in a certain way, and whether, male, female, independence, and like what they want to do. And like I said, this is just from my lens, my perspective. I don't have any kids, taken with like as big of a grain of salt as possible.
Yeah.
But like while the career, the industry, whatever it is, could be anything. People make money at all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, the more important thing is like really instilling certain levels of values, certain levels expectations for them early on, because like I said, anyone can make money in anything, and more finding their purpose rather than focusing on talents, right? So some people will say like, hey, my kid is great at education, they're great at math, they're great at playing football, they're great at basketball, whatever it is. Instead of finding just the talent that they're great at, right? To make it a little bit more agnostic, as in it could carry on through other things, focus on what the purpose is.
Yeah.
Like, why are they so great at playing basketball? Why are they so great at mathematics? What else can that like dive into? Right?
Yeah.
And it's not like those things aren't careers, they are, but it's going to be a time where they can't do that career forever, right? So like, say if someone even makes it into the NFL, another like acronym for the NFL is like not for long, right? Because you can't do it forever, right? The amount of people that actually make it like 20 years in the NFL and actually like still reap benefits from playing the NFL are very little, right? So like people that, did the NFL for a few years and, they definitely made money. Do they continue to make money afterwards? Most people not really. And the reason why is because they didn't grow other skill sets, right? They didn't grow other talents. They focused on being in the NFL, playing football, where if you focus on purpose, like, why am I doing this? Like, what is and for me, I'm like, I've really been focusing on like the end result. Like, what is the end result, right? Because I think a lot of people, they look at something and they don't fully think it through, as in, I want to play in the NFL. Well, what happens after the NFL, right? Or I want to join the military. Well, what happens after the military?
Yeah.
Right? What happens after that specific career? What happens after school? What happens after this, right? I'm not saying they have to have like that specific path to go down. Everything deviates. But why I say purpose is because when you have a purpose, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. The purpose. So for example, if someone for my purpose, right, I don't necessarily have like the specific one, but for a good time, it's been accumulating wealth and net worth, right? But if you really think about it, and like the natural path or the end of that path is to become the most wealthy person ever, right? But think about it. If you're the most wealthy person ever, there's certain things that you kind of stepped on, right? There's certain relationships that you either received a lot of value from, or you kind of walked away.
Yeah.
Certain things like that, right? But if the purpose, and like I realize that's not like my actual purpose, right? And I know it's a lot of contemplating I had to do. But one of my things, like for me personally, like my purpose is to like educate people. Like that's just like that's kind of why we started this podcast, right? Is because we feel like there's certain things we've been through that we could probably educate others on and like expand their minds on, because they're probably not thinking about this stuff. They might be, but they might be alone, right? They may not think that other people are thinking about these things as well. And, that's like just kind of the thing I want to do. So like, but how do I do that, right? There's many ways, right? People go into education, right? They become instructors, become teachers. People create content on YouTube, create like video classes, right? That people can go through, that people can buy. People create podcasts. It really depends on like that level that you want to have influence over, right? So the reason why a teacher may not make a lot of money is because the amount of people that they have influence over is very little, right? And the return on investment of educating those people can be very little, right? So there's a reason why a teacher versus a professor at a college will make more, is because the level of influence that they have over adults that are potentially going to make more money in the economy, right, is higher.
Yeah.
So, and then depending on your reach, right? So like at Harvard, there's a certain level of excellence at Harvard, right? Versus like UTSA here in San Antonio, right? I'm not saying that UTSA is a bad school. I'm not saying Harvard's like the best school ever, but there was already a level of excellence kind of put in to get into Harvard versus into UTSA.
Yeah.
And then, but even then, like online courses or like YouTube content creators, you can reach everyone, right? So your potential to make X amount of money is a lot higher because you could educate a whole bunch of people in a whole bunch of countries, and it's also readily available to everyone. It doesn't cost you anything to watch a podcast on YouTube, right? It doesn't cost you anything to watch like a few YouTube videos on finances, on building credit, on building a business on YouTube. So there's a higher potential on overall revenue because it's readily available. It's still good content and it's quick, right? It's very short. It's not very strict on the content, right? It's very free flowing. Then it is like binary.
Yeah. So like going back to things that I guess help my children, or to give them something that I didn't have, to get them to a process where they can figure out what they want to do with their life. That was basically just trying to, I think you even touched on it a little bit. It's like giving them the idea of like, you can do this. So the same as like my daughter didn't know when she was playing this game and she was drawing floor plans. I was like, well, you're basically doing what an architect does, and they get actually paid decent money.
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't know how much because I'm not an architect. Yeah. It's possible. It's probably ways to make like, so much money. Right. Mm-hmm. But it was the idea of like understanding that she's trying to create a talent or a new skill. And I'm trying to give her the idea of like, okay, here's more you can learn to improve this skill. And I think she's still interested in it. Cause every now and again she'll ask me, do I have any floor plans? So she can draw them. She want to test it out. All right. Yeah. And I think that's pretty cool because it would now be in a technology age and the information age, like there is no excuse why someone shouldn't learn something. And when she shows me that type of interest, I'm just trying to point her in the right direction, which telling her that she's getting out at 18, right? Making her already understand that she's going to be independent before she even thinks about a relationship, that she's already thinking about a career. Because, it's a different society, right? And it feels good that when she lets me know that she's planning on going to college, right? And I know some kids that, her age and not thinking about college. I mean, honestly, we had some that they're 18, ready to go to college, and not thinking about college. So the thing is, you know, not everyone needs college, and I think you even mentioned that. Not everyone needs that formal education to get to where they need to go. But if you are, you know, you're going into a specific field, specific field that they need to hone in on those skills to learn and then and grow them. Because also, you know, college isn't just about those learning a subject or whatever it is, right? It's all about those connections. You never know down the line someone that you were going in class with that has their own firm and they're looking for someone, or they're looking for a partner, or, you know, different things like that. That's what I forget what I was listening to, that's the true meaning of going to a university. It's not just the education, it's the actual connections. Because you never know, a professor, them being in the field for so long of teaching, that they've met all these students, and these students come back to let them know, hey, this is what I've been doing since I've left your class, you know, and there you go. That's a connection right there. And obviously, the knowledge of understanding connections and relationships is where money really is. You know, it's not just the education part.
I think another thing that was like a bad thing for me is that, like, I saw certain things as like at face value.
Yeah.
Right. As in, I saw college only for education. Yeah. Right? As in, like, I didn't care who I spoke to, like, who was doing whatever it was. And, you know, hindsight wise, it probably would have been better to grow certain networks and grow certain relationships. It's just, at that time I was fairly naive, and I'm not saying I'm any less naive than I am right now, but
don't worry. I think it's majority of us. I mean, I'm the same way, man. I had friends, but I was more focused on trying to get my stuff together so I can get out of the university, start making money. But you're right, man. Yeah.
Because like, and a lot of people, and maybe it definitely wasn't just me, but like, I'll notice a lot of people that say they do the traditional college thing, you know, high school, go to college, live on campus, make friends, play sports, whatever it is. They'll make friends and stuff, but they'll, like, the friends they make, they're just only interested in what they're interested in. Like, maybe, like, if they're interested in parties and stuff, like, they'll go out to party, they'll play sports, but they're not necessarily interested on, like, educational portion. They're not necessarily interested on the career that they could have afterwards and stuff like that. But I mean, it's still good to, and it's funny because I forgot who it was, but there was this one guy. He was telling me that he doesn't necessarily promote college to his kids, as in, like, he's not going to force them to go to college. But if they do want to go to college, he tells them a couple things, right? He says, one, find the kid that has probably the most wealthy parents, right? Don't just, like, make an inorganic relationship, like, actually build a relationship, right? And then find, like, also the smartest kid, right? The smartest kid of that subject, whatever it is. And the reason why is because when you make those connections with those people, you'll realize that they necessarily don't talk to each other, right? The person that maybe has the most wealth, and the one that has the most intelligence may not speak to each other. And I think that's a huge gap that you could probably fill, right? As in, say if the person with the most money also aligned themselves with the people that are incredibly intelligent, like, say if you had, like, an Elon Musk, if you had a Steve Jobs, if you had a Jeff Bezos, right? Yeah. Where from an economical standpoint, the amount of money they could make together is greater than they could separately.
Yeah.
Right. So, and granted, I gave, like, pretty extreme examples, like, not everyone's a Musk, not everyone is a Bezos, not everyone is like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, right? But what if, right? Like, why aren't they? And it's because they're typically missing one out of the three things, right? So, like, it's like they don't have the full piece or the full pie, right? They just have pieces of the pie. Yeah. And if you made it whole, it would be more valuable, right? And I think that's, like, what some people miss out on. Like, a lot of people will say, or not a lot of people, but someone will say, like, when you get money and experience together, experience will make the money, and money will make the experience, or will get the experience, right? As in, like, you have someone has a lot of knowledge, has a lot of working knowledge, but maybe not have all the funds, right? But they're resourceful enough to get the funds, right? As in, someone that has the funds that doesn't necessarily have the knowledge, they'll pay to get all that stuff. Yeah. Right. So I think those are, like, good, like, dichotomies to have and to kind of work towards or build together.
Yeah. No, that was a lot of knowledge right there. Yeah. You've been doing a lot of reading lately.
No, I haven't been reading, but I've been doing, I've been focusing a lot on, like, business type mindsets and like, not just, I mean, it's always personal growth. That's professional growth. Like, either while it's great that I have all the knowledge, or quote unquote have knowledge, it's not great that I'm the person with 1,000 hands, right? It's better to have an organization that has 1,000 hands.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're the only person, then you become the single point of failure for that organization. So how do you share that knowledge? How do you grow that knowledge between others? How do you adjust to people that have different baselines, right? Because like one of the things that I noticed that there's things that you probably heard when you were younger, but you didn't fully understand them, but you heard them again when you're older and you did, right? So like say if I told a baby, hey, you need to budget, right? That sounds ridiculous, right? But if you start telling a 12-year-old, hey, you need to learn how to budget. You start telling a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, you need to budget, right?
Yeah.
They're going to hear it differently because they're at different points of life. They have different levels of experience and like, so there's things like that. Like I said, the stuff about gaining relationships in college, that's not something that I focused on. And I wish I would, like, and even if people said that, and maybe no one was saying that, but even if someone said that, I probably wasn't ready to hear that information at that time. But I will say, like, I have been listening to this book called $100 Million Offers.
Yeah.
And it's by this guy named Alex Hormozy, who I've been listening to for a little while now. And I think he's a great, like, content creator, great business person in general. And it's basically a book on teaching you, like, how to sell, right? Either how to sell a product, how to sell a service, whatever it is, but how to make your offer so great that it would be stupid for another person to say no.
Yeah.
Right. And just kind of the building blocks around that.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely wish I took advantage of trying to make those relationships where it's more kind of career driven versus like the hangout time. Yeah. It's like, hey, let's go do that. You know, you make all, you can gain a lot of friends that way, but you don't know which ones are actually going to be successful. I mean, even if you did pick them by career base, you still don't know which ones are actually going to follow through. So that was something I wish I had done, because it was the same thing. I was thinking, let's get to school, let's get out of school, let's go make some money. And so you basically following whatever your parents were telling you, and it's like, you know, go to school, get good grades, and go find a career, and you build your career, and then, you know, things will get taken care of, which is not true at all. Like, honestly, you don't even have to go to college. You could, if you know where you want to go, then you can get there faster by actually focusing on that. But, you know, like I said, I was saying earlier that, yeah, some things are specified. So you just gotta focus it. You gotta get honed in, because you don't want, like, if you want to be a doctor, no one would trust a doctor that all he did was self-study, and then decided to take the exam. No, they want you to like know that you went through the process of becoming a doctor. You wouldn't
have that level of validation from
like
the schools and other doctors and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And to, to gain that trust, from people. I mean, I remember you were saying something earlier about like someone taking your kids to the bank. I know I started that with my daughter, but it's a little different now, right? Because everything's online. You can just you can just do a majority of your transactions online. Someone sends you a check in the mail. Now you can deposit it by camera. So you don't need to go to the bank. But the thing is, having the experience to at least take them at least once or twice. I know I took my daughter, and she was probably 8 years old, something like that, right? And you can tell she didn't. She like, why are we at this place? And I was like showing her how to deposit a check into the bank. I think it was when we were closed on this house that we're in now, and we were receiving checks. I'll say checks, maybe a couple checks, right? From the transaction. And what I wanted her to see is an actual check, because no one really has checks anymore. So I was like, I want you to see how it works to go deposit this check, and what this check really is representing money from someone else's account that you're going to put in your account. And so that was, I don't know if she remembers, but I need to find ways to like keep showing her that. And the same for my son. I need him to see it too.
I think being good, like, especially as you're on this like real estate path, is to like take them to like the properties you're going to, especially if it's like a multiplex. Like, even if you're not interested in getting it, like it'd be good to like just go check out a duplex or a multiplex and show them like, hey, this is like not used to, or not what you're used to, right? Like a single family home or anything, but I mean, it's something that people are making money off of, right? Or you could show them like stocks, right? If you have like a portfolio, you could show them like on your phone or on like the computer, whatever it is, like just continue to expose them to those different things, because to me, it's kind of sad when people, like, especially adults, they don't know things. And to me, like, like you said, it's the information error. So for people not to know things, it's kind of a huge excuse now. Like there shouldn't be any excuses to why you don't know certain things. Yeah, if you don't know how to do surgery, okay, that's cool. I don't expect you to just Google how do I do surgery on like a grape or something. But no, like how to budget, right? What happens if you're in a car accident? What happens when you get pulled over? Yeah. Right. How do you do investments? What type of account should I have? How should I structure my taxes? Whatever it is, right? But I think like, especially if you're in that space as a parent, it'd be good to kind of teach them, because there's tons of different teachings out there, tons of different doctrine that could be like, it is the information error, but it's also like there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. And if you feel like when you have like a proven system for yourself, then that's something that's not misinformation, right? It's you're doing it, right? Yeah. You're actually executing on certain things, and it'd be good to show them on that level on how to do things.
Yeah. I could start, I take them to more of the single family when we're getting this personal property, but not necessarily the process for investment. My son, it was just funny. He saw I had bought a house in Mississippi, and he was just like, he had this confused look. Yeah, he had this confused look on his face. We're moving here? Like, oh, no. And then like, he was like, Dad, you're going to lose your money. I was like, no, son, that's not how it works. So I was like, but it's funny that he has that consciousness of money now, which is pretty cool, letting him know what we're actually going to do with the property. When I finally explained it to him, because it took him a minute, all right, because I think we had already made it back home, everything, and it was one night I was tucking him in, and I was just like, I laid on his bed just talking to him, and I asked him, I was like, so what's your concerns about that property, that house in Mississippi? And he told me what they were, and then I explained to him, I was like, so what Dad's gonna do is he's gonna make it where we get some money from it. And I was like, people are gonna pay us to live there. And then it started to slowly click, and then all of a sudden it just like, he had this relief, like, oh, okay. So like, you knew that there was a plan, and that it was another avenue to bring in income. And but it's pretty good that he had that thought. And then I took the time to explain it to him. And then another one for my daughter. Actually, I did it for both kids, but I did it for my wife too. So basically, how you can add authorized users to a credit card. I added my wife a long time ago, and what I was doing with that process is you want everyone in the household with strong credit. So I was making sure she had strong credit, so when we go purchase a property together, that we have no one saying, hey, no, she has bad credit, you got to get the lower interest rate because you're carrying her, and and so like I fixed it where both of us have good credit, and then I found out that kids of younger age can have they basically have be authorized users, and some credit cards don't even have a limit on it, an age limit. And so what I did is I added them to a credit card that had like a limit of $10,000. And with that, basically starting out the process of building a credit. And then my daughter, she came in, and I had to explain to her what I was doing, because again, you could tell like that confused look, like, so do I get a credit card? Not yet. Yeah, a credit card is coming, but it's not yours yet. And I have to teach you how to use it. So that was.
I did the same with my little sister, man. I actually had to sit down with her like last month and like kind of talk to her like how like credit works and stuff. And she's 16. Like she's not like an adult yet, but I've been doing this for like the past couple of years, where I'll put her on one of my credit cards as an authorized user. So she has like probably about the same amount of cards that I do. She doesn't physically have them because I physically have them, but like I've got like 10 or 12 credit cards now.
Hey everyone, this is Jay. On behalf of Craig and I, we hope you all enjoyed this episode of the Troubleshooting Life podcast. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform, then please leave a rating and review. And if you found us on YouTube, then please leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and put a comment down below to let us know what other topics you would love to hear. All those asks take no money and less than a minute to complete, but greatly improves our brand and reach to like-minded people. Alrighty, we're signing off the Troubleshooting Life podcast. We'll see you next week.